again to
Thursdays with Toni
and Trish. We once again welcome you to our show. It's another episode for tonight. So, Toni, kamusta ka naman so far?
Pressured with theses, but everything's okay at work, so
Doing mo?
I'm happy overall. How about you?
I'm okay. Actually, mutik na akong malate sa episode na to. Kasi yung mommy ko, ang daming pinapagawa sa akin sa bahay. So, kailangan perfect. Buti naman nakaabot. Bago mag 7 p.m., naka-shoot na tayo. And yeah, sa work, ayoko na munang pag-usapan. Long weekend tayo ngayong araw na to. So, yeah. Busy, but I love my job. So, we just need a break from time to time. Ikaw ba? How's your workload?
Still light compared to the past weeks. Of course, there will be days na medyo busy talaga. No? But hindi pa siya yung talagang peak ng busy season. So, sometimes, it's kind of boring. But, I'm just enjoying the time that I can actually still socialize at work given the low volume. Pero, of course, excited din na bumalik sa normal and low.
Mm-hmm. So, today we will be talking about perfectionism, not just with work, but also to other things. Earlier, I had an argument with my mom because she really is a perfectionist. So, she wants everything clean. She wants everything almost perfect, like crystal clear talaga yung floor and everything. So, whenever I hear perfection, it really is something that I hate hearing. Parang I have a negative connotation about it. Pero ikaw ba? I mean, OC ka, diba? But do you think that's your OCness is somewhat related to perfectionism?
Well, I'd like to think during my younger years, it's more of grammar. And I'm not someone really perfect when it comes to grammar as well. But I think growing up, mas na-associate ko siya sa being an only child. I was raised na medyo na micromanage. And I think there was a seminar I attended which actually associated, being micromanaged to being somewhat a perfectionist. But, the beauty kasi of being exposed to a workplace na multinational, you get to talk to people from different cultures, you eventually learn to adjust your expectations. You learn to understand na, there are some things that you can actually set aside or let go of. And eventually, maiisip mo talaga na wala naman talagang perfect. Even if we sometimes say na parang, ay, nakaka-OC yung ganito, ganyan. Pero, parang siguro it just comes out of habit saying na na-OC. And, whenever people hear that, parang isipin nila, ay, perfectionist, ganyan. But in reality, parang personally, whenever we arrange some stuff or observe some things, parang more of organizing, yes, but not necessarily, talagang literally striving for perfection. Kasi parang there's no such thing anyway, diba? Ikaw ba, pag sa work, do you think of, was there ever a time na naisip mo na parang, I should always do things perfectly? Something like that.
When I was young, yes, I had that pressure. Lalo na nung fresh grad, syempre parang yung mga kasama mo experience na, parang mga more than 5 years na nag-work. So, the struggle to keep up was really there. The pressure was really there. And yung boss ko talaga, at first, syempre I got intimidated. Pressure ako. So, parang it gave me lack of confidence. Pero it's good na rin that, siguro it comes with maturity na you have to take the good from the bad. Siguro yun din. Kasi dati when I hear OC, talaga ako, parang, oy, OC siya, parang nakakahiya magpa-check na, lalo na sa writing, di ba nabanggit ko sa'yo na weakness ko yung writing. So, before, talagang parang nahihiya ako pakita sa sister ko or sa'yo yung gawa ko, ganyan. So, parang kasi baka ma-judge ako, ganyan. Pero hindi ko nakita agad yung positive side ng mga taong OC. Lalo na kapag friends mo na, they can correct you, di ba? Lalo na kapag ka-close mo na, it will help you manage your weakness and help you correct those grammar mistake, mga punctuation marks. I sometimes forget to audit or talagang sadya lang talagang siguro I just take a look at the bigger picture of everything. I don't really go into details. So, talagang sa admin work, weakness ko talaga siya. So, yun nga. Kaya whenever I hear parang OC, parang dati talaga parang kinakabahan ako, ganyan. Pero for me ngayon, inisip mo siya as reference. Ito pag medyo clumsy ako. Ito yung mga papacheck ko kay Toni, ganyan. Diba? So, pag ako nga, naalala ko, whenever I hear parang, what does perfectionism remind me is either my mom my sister or you. Kayo lang talagang tatlo. Kasi daddy ko, parehas kami. Clumsy talaga kami. I don't know. Kaya talagang hindi ako perfectionist talaga. But I get frustrated to some other things. I think when it comes to plans, when I was young, pag may mga hindi ako natutuloy na plans, I really get frustrated. Hindi ako natutuwa sa ganun. Pero alam mo yun, as you go along, marirealize mo, you just have to be lenient. Ikaw ba? Does perfectionism pressure you or motivate you?
Hindi naman ako na, what do you call that? Siguro, not really motivated, pero hindi din naman ako na-discourage na parang, or na-pressure pag naisip ko yung perfectionism. Pero kasi yung sinabi mo kanina, di ba? Yung, I feel like, in more recent years, ginagamit na lang casually yung term na OC ako ganyan. Pero kasi diba it's a serious
Yeah.
It's a serious condition, right? So parang if we will be technical about it, we shouldn't even be using it casually. Just like using the term bipolar, diba? So, dun din sa sinasabi mo kanina, parang na bumalik sa isip ko no, na na-realize ko na the more appropriate call for that would be someone that is keen to details. And that's how I classify myself. I'm keen to details, especially in writing. No, I may not be the type that would sound very poetic in my writings, but particularly in grammar, as far as I know, I'm really keen to that. So that's why I'm not really pressured whenever you're somewhat expected to strive for perfection, because in the first place, I do acknowledge that it does not exist. There's nothing's perfect, really, literally, figuratively. Motivation, somewhat not, because knowing that it does not exist in the first place. What you can do though is to always try your best, diba? I mean, I think that's something that we continuously hear, that people are advising you to always do your best, because in reality, it will really help you a lot, diba? I mean, may mararating talaga yan kung you're always exerting your best. Ano ba tawag nila doon? You're not doing things half-baked. Yung ganon, diba? So, kaya hindi siya Ikaw ba, may kahit sinabi mo kanina na before, medyo may pressure. Ngayon ba meron pa?
It's a hard lesson for me to realize that, because I grew up with my mom, a perfectionist one. So nagkaroon ako talaga ng fear of failure. So talagang it created somehow damage. I don't blame my mom kasi lahat naman tayo may imperfection, may flaw in life. But that really helped me to balance everything, na you can be keen to details. You can always strive for excellence without being a perfectionist. So yun yung siguro greatest lesson, na I don't have to blame my mom being a perfectionist, but I can learn something from that. Yun yung parang taking the good from the bad, diba? And my mom has a lot of good traits. I mean, it outweighs the bad. So kahit na nagkaroon ng major impact sa akin yun, nagkaroon pa rin siya ng benefit na I always strive for excellence. Diba? When it comes to work, you are intentional in auditing your work, yung mga ganong bagay na tsaka hindi ka yung nasa-satisfy na maski pa paano. It's a common trait, diba? Sa Pilipino, yung okay yan, kahit ganyan, yan. Ikaw ba, may mga nadidisturb ka bang mga trait ng mga, yung mediocrity? When you hear mediocrity, or sino yung naaalala mo, or ano yung mga naaalala mo when it comes to mediocrity?
When it comes to that term, somewhat guilty ako dyan. There are times na guilty ako dyan. I'm not someone that is always motivated generally in life, and I don't know why. But kasi probably sometimes people become like that is because baka din kulang sila sa motivation, or baka probably they don't like what they're doing. Because in the first place, if you like what you're doing, diba, I mean talagang you'll put your all, put your heart, you'll put your mind and soul into it. So siguro, we need to acknowledge that there can be a lot of factors on why people settle for less. But marami kasi talagang sources and it's, most commonly that I can think of is sometimes we associate it with how we are raised. I mean, I think we both have our fair share sa how we were raised. But personally, for me kasi, it's, even if people commonly say that how you're raised has a huge impact on your totality as a person, I don't really agree. Kasi, of course, setting aside that there are medical conditions that may affect your how you think But if you don't have any, growing up, you get exposed to the world. You get to meet different people with different perspectives. So that can eventually also have a huge impact on how you build your personality, on what behaviors you exude, being an adult. So, that's why I can say na ang dami talagang factors na that can affect whether we intend to do our best in everything that we do,
True.
or whether we are okay with settling for less.
Yeah. Maski nga ako I mean, I love the job that I'm into, diba? I work in recruitment. So, hindi, kahit na ba sabihin mo I love ko yung job ko, may mga time din talaga na nade-demotivate ako or parang I fall into mediocrity. It's sometimes unintentional and unconscious. Lalo na kapag pagod ka, alam mo yun. Kaya nga, diba, we should not allow ourselves to be burnt out because these are the side effects of burnout or pressure. Kasi whenever you're tired, hindi ka motivated to do your best. Kasi nga malungkot ka, pagod ka, ganyan. Diba? Feeling ko naman normal yun kahit na love ko yung job ko. Paano pa kaya, diba, kung hindi nila love yung job nila? So baka araw-araw mediocre na yung results ng mga performance nila, diba? So, ayun. Ikaw ba? Perfectionist ba parents mo? Or hindi naman?
Well, kasi I have very few specific memories ng childhood ko. I was told na when I was younger daw, kasi you know, diba, I studied in a Chinese school from nursery to high school. So of course, aside from English classes, may Chinese classes din. And both have exams, quizzes, and all that. Tapos, well, tutok naman kasi sa studies ko yung parents ko when I was younger. So, modesty aside, may mga honor din naman here and there. Nung younger, tapos parang dati daw, sa exam sa Chinese, parang matataas naman yung grades ko. I mean, hello, 90 plus, na gano'n. Tapos ang sasabihin daw ng tatay ko, bakit hindi 100? Wait lang, Chinese to. But you know, I can't really recall that moment. Parang sinasabi lang ng mga sa akin. Pero I think naman, hindi na, siguro may face lang na gano'n na kasi parang, I mean, sino ba namang magulang ang, I mean, if you know the intellectual capability of your child, diba? I mean, siguro naman, not in a bad way, but parang somewhat curious na, baka kaya naman kasi na perfect yung exam. Pero in reality, parang eventually, hindi naman talaga. Siguro may mas specific lang na gano'n, but they are not, and they are very supportive naman. So,
yeah.
it's just a funny example.
Common flow yun ng mga 90s parents. Yung ito lang, alam mo yung ganon. Kasi ngayon, pag ring up mo na yan, parang hindi dapat ganyan, napipressure yung... Di ba, there's such thing as awareness ngayon, di ba? Na parang when the kid's grade is just B or parang 80, ganyan, you don't say na, bakit ganito lang, di ba? Parang meron ng awareness na, no, you can still do your best, ganyan, you did a good job. Alam mo yung very, comforting na yung confrontation on how you can motivate the child without offending. So, ako naman kasi, wala akong pakialam sa grades. So, minsan talaga si mommy, minsan ako-compare pa kami ng sister ko. Kasi my sister really is a top student. Parang every quarter, parang ang tawag dun sa award nila, sunshine student. So, ano mo yun? Kapag kunyari darating yung mga kamag-anak namin, sabihin mo nga, syempre, alam mo yung uso-uso yung sabihin na, uy, yung anak ko, ganyan, di ba? Yung mga uso-uso, parang, yung anak ko, sunshine student. Tapos minsan tatanang nila, alam mo yung, ewan ko ba, si Trish, ganyan. Sasabihin ni Daddy, sunset.
Oh my God!
Ano yung narinig ko? Daddy naman, alam ko nagjo-joke. Pero, syempre, high school ako, na-offend talaga ako. Parang, grabe, porket ba sunshine yung kapatid ko, sasabihin mo na sa mga kamag-anak natin. Sunset ako. Kasi talaga, when they strive for perfectionism or strive to, maka-perfect 100 yung isa sa amin, talagang hindi siya napipigilang ma-compare. Pero buti na lang din, hindi ko siya dinamdam. Kasi kapag dinamdam ko siya, I might even grow some jealousy against my sister. So, ayun, okay na rin na, kaya naniniwala ako doon sa sinabi mo na, yung upbringing mo, it doesn't entirely make you right now. As you grow, you will have choices in life. You'll have different exposures.
Exactly.
So you cannot blame just the parents whenever the kid, go somewhere else. Ito nga, di ba, keen to details ka. Somewhat, close to the association of perfectionism. Sa work, when it comes to work, Toni, being keen to details really helped you a lot to perform and make friends na rin at work at the same time.
Yes. Siguro, siguro medyo buhat bangko moment. No? So I recall pag nagko-connect kami ng line manager ko, something that she would praise me for is how I respond to stakeholders. Kasi we have a case management system that can be checked by our supervisor. So nakikita nila din yung parang email trails. And she would tell me that I'm good with explaining things. So siguro kaya ako nasabi na ganun kasi whenever I respond to individuals, whether it's a stakeholder within the organization or someone external, candidates, ganyan, I won't just give you a yes or no answer to your question. I would provide supplementary information that would make you understand better and appreciate why we do things a certain way. Because, I think yung ganung way of answering correspondences would also prevent yung exchange pa ng emails na mas haba pa yung conversation. So, of course, medyo tricky din siya kasi baka you're sharing too much information that is no longer relevant. But yun nga, dun papasok yung keep the details. Tapos to making friends, siguro yes. Kasi, well, as my best friend, siguro you can somewhat attest na when I make friends with people, I really remember their likes and dislikes. Yeah, kahit hindi ko alam yung specific, favorite this and that mo. Pero I like surprising my friends. That sometimes you guys will say na parang, ay natandaan mo pala na sinabi ko sa'yo na I like this. Uh-huh. And then surprise, nasa doorstep mo na yung item. Uh-huh. So siguro, it helps a lot in making friends, being keen to details.
Ay nako, naalala ko tuloy yung di ba weakness ko nga yung pagiging keen to details. So, kabaliktad ko naman is pagiging forgetful. Yung mga birthdays. Naalala ko.
Nga. Actually, ito pala, yung
birthday mo.
Curious ako dyan. Kasi when you told me, and I think I confronted you that time din, na parang, hindi mo alam kung kailan yung birthday ko. You're like my best friend. Are you for real? Pero, kasi I think nitong recent years, you were already able to remember the exact day. Mm-hmm. So ano yung parang anong wake-up call mo noon or anong intervention yung naganap sa'yo na mas mag-focus dun sa ganong specifics?
Well, actually, nung nalimutan ko talaga yung birthday mo na yun, as in, wala talaga sa isip ko. Hindi dahil marami akong ginagawa. Talagang nalimutan ko siya. It really is my fault. Mm-hmm. Hindi dahil wala akong access sa phone ko that time. So, really, oh my gosh, yung pagiging forgetful ko, I might even lose a friend. So, parang it's not cute. Parang it's not a minor mistake. It's my best friend's birthday. Tapos, parang hindi lang once eh. I think,
more than once.
So parang sabi ko, oh my gosh, I must do something about my forgetfulness. Kasi I got this from my dad. Alam mo yung parang hindi, we're both not a multitasker. Alam mo, pag multitask talaga, mediocre talaga yung literal kapag nag-multitask kami. Mm-hmm. So sabi ko, what can I do to manage those this weakness? Talaga yung pagiging forgetful ko is kaya I don't like admin, diba? So yung pagiging hindi keen to details, pagiging forgetful. But sometimes your weakness can also help you realize na may mga bagay na kailangan kang gawin in order for you to somehow minimize the damage that you can, do to your friends, your KPI sa work, diba? So, nilalagay ko talaga siya sa notebook ko. Every time I have a new planner, every time na mag-change ako ng plan, lalagay ko na talaga doon yung mga birthdays ng mga hindi ko dapat malimutan. So, kapag tinicheck ko na yon, kapag kunyari mag-February, mag-March, ayan, check ko na yung mga may birthday. Ay, birthday wala nito. Kailangan ko siyang bati. So, nag-a-alarm na ako na parang, by this day, kailangan, mabati ko na siya, ganyan sa lubong. So, for me, being aware to your weakness, diba? Lalo na kung medyo hindi ka talaga magaling sa memory, bikin yung memory mo. You gotta do something about it. It's not really, it's your fault na kasi kapag kapag hinayaan mo eh. So, ayun.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Alam mo na-realize ko talaga, I am always amazed whenever we find justifications of how complete opposites we are. And yet, it makes the bond stronger. So, you mentioned you're forgetful, di ba, sa ganong details. Ako naman, di ba, I'm good with birthdays. I'm good with anniversaries. I mean, at least for those that I've been close to once upon a time, I still remember their birthdays. Ewan ko, I got that from my father. We're good with dates. Pero, tawag dito, parang na-curious naman ako na nabanggit mo kasi na you do planners. Ako kasi, I'm not a planner myself. I keep buying planners for the past years, but hindi siya napupuno. Kasi I'm a very spontaneous person, especially when going out on weekends. Pero now that you've mentioned it, are you the type that when you've written something in your planner, tapos hindi siya nangyari or hindi nagawa to however you pictured it in your mind, do you get frustrated?
I do, especially during my early 20s. Yung parang
Perfectionist.
Yun. Siguro sa ganong part, perfectionist talaga ako. Kunyari, this day, maglilinis ako. Sa tanghali, maglalaba ako. Tapos sa afternoon, lalabas ako with friends, ganyan. Yung kumbaga, naglinis ka na sa umaga, naglaba ka na, tapos biglang umulan, hindi ka makapag-commute kasi bumabagyo na. So talagang sobrang sira na yung day ko early in the afternoon pala kasi hindi na ako natuloy with friends.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, yung answer mo, more of frustration kapag hindi na, how do you call this, hindi natuloy yung itinerary. Parang gano'n, di ba? Yeah. Ako naman, hindi ako masyadong, I'm keen to details, but I'm not really into itinerary. So, whenever I travel, I really appreciate the friends I travel with whenever they initiate making the itinerary. That's a blessing for me. Pero ako naman, I get frustrated at recently, konting instances. Whenever parang, kunyari, when working with a group, tapos parang, di ba you discuss, how you envision carrying out a project or an activity. Tapos parang, eventually, what will happen is not somewhat different from that plan. Ako din ako na-frustrate. Hindi naman sa mga daily itinerary, pero yung sa gano'n na parang, this was how I thought of it, how we will be executing it, tapos hindi siya naging gano'n. Kasi syempre, I guess that's challenging because you're also working with other people. And that's where you need to be flexible because it's not only your mind being used for this, for this task or activity. But of course, eventually, you learn to adjust. So, okay lang naman siya.
It really takes some level of self-awareness to realize that, these kinds of things are causing issues for you. Tapos, eventually, ma-realize mo na, we have to be agile, we have to be flexible.
Yeah.
Pay closer attention to responses, to our reaction day-to-day, diba, in our work task or in life in general. Alam mo yun, pati expectation natin to other people na is something na people will admire eventually if you're flexible, diba? I think most people admire those people who are very flexible and agile rather than perfectionist. Diba? Because at the end of the day, we're human eh. And we realize na rin no one's perfect. Diba? So why strive for perfection? So yun yung parang for me na-realize ko na rin na lalo na when I started, siguro mga 26 years old onwards, ano ko na-realize na, kung nagkamali siya, once lang naman to eh. Hindi naman to repetitive eh. So, I can, palalagpasin ko to. Pero I think there's this certain boundary that you should draw the line kapag nagiging abusive na sa pagiging mediocre or, repetitive mistake, ganyan. So, was there a time na you weren't really striving for perfection? You were just striving for excellence, but you were criticized by it?
So, unfortunately, wala akong maiisip na criticize. Pero siguro, parang ang mga natatanggap ko na, comment or feedback, siguro sa line manager ko. Kasi sometimes, when I'm confused about something, a message I am receiving, I talk to someone para meron akong other idea, diba? Na kasi baka this is just my perspective. What if it actually meant a different thing? So, whenever I talk to my leader, parang doon ako na-enlighten na, oo nga, no, I could have looked at it at this standpoint. And that's where you can really realize na it helps kapag kumakausap ka din ng iba when you don't understand something or when something sounds different to you. Diba? Like what we do. Like if something is not clear to me, I share it with you and you do the same. And having different personalities and perspectives, at least nako-complement natin yung
Feeling ko rin kasi yung pagiging keen to details mo, if I took it in a childish way, parang feeling ko magkakaroon ako ng, alam mo yung uso sa mga girl friendship, yung mga inggitan. Ang arte-arte naman yan, di ba? Instead of taking it to manage your weakness, lalo na, I do podcast, diba? So, minsan yung mga writing stuff, admin stuff, hindi ko na napapansin yan, hindi ko na na-audit. But you, since supportive ka sa akin, nakikita mo na parang, Trish, you have to correct this kasi parang medyo awkward yung question mark. Tapos parang na-realize ko, oo nga, no, ang pangit niya pakinggan. So parang let me correct this. Alam mo yung ganon, yung opposite man tayo, but we don't see it as a barrier, but rather a bridge. It's really important. And it takes certain maturity then to see that these kinds of things na kahit na opposite tayo, na you can details, be forgetful. Pero kapag pinagsama mo yung gano'n, na yung weaknesses and strengths natin, it gives us more, we feel more empowered, diba? And na laging yung honesty natin sa isa't isa na parang it even helps us to grow our friendship even better. So, ayun.
Pero dun sa sinabi mo na na example mo, wala naman bang time na parang naging offensive or hindi ganun kaganda yung dating nung parang advice ko sa'yo? Na-curious lang ako.
Hindi. Actually, mas open ako sa kapatid ko eh. Kasi mas syempre pag kapatid mo, di ba? Pangit mo naman
Walang
dyan.
filter.
Galon. Pero, kaya pagdating na sa'yo, parang kahit na medyo off pa yan, I see it, parang I take it constructively. Kasi ako, I'm a tough love giver. Paano ko binigyan ako ng tough love tapos hindi ko ma-accept? Di ba parang how ironic?
Ironic.
Kaya for me, when it comes to correction, talagang I really take it seriously in a good way. Kasi for me, I can take the good from the bad naman eh. Kasi ako nga minsan wala pang filter nagsasabi eh. Pero of course, na-manage ko naman na yun. Pero I see it na concern ka sa akin. Pero pag hindi ko ka-close, tapos magbibigay ng advice.
Oo naman. That's different.
Who you? Di ba? Parang ganon. So,
that's different.
Oo. So when it comes to you, never talaga ako na-offend. May mga time lang na wala ako sa mood. Yun, yung response. Pero I still follow it at the end na parang, hindi naman kasi yan yung intention ko eh. Pero sa totoo lang, gagawin ko rin naman yung advice mo. So, yun.
Hindi. Alam mo kasi, una yung sa sinabi mo kanina, no? Kasi I feel like, yung pagiging BFFs, it's like a partnership. Especially tayo, we're doing a show, right? So, now that we already know on what level of maturity each other is on, we know that this partnership, this friendship, is a friendship or partnership na really is just to help each other develop and grow. And being aware that we have that certain knowledge or capability to influence the other's growth. I mean, bakit naman natin ipagdadamot, di ba? Yeah. I mean, that's why we're best friends in the first place. And if we are the type na parang okay lang sa atin na nakikita mo na may i-improve yung best friend mo at capable ka to give. I mean, a partnership and friendships should be about celebrating each other's wins, even if that win is just small. Kasi everything starts small. So, kaya I really like that, yung mga sinabi mo na.
Empower ng friend. And never compare. Kasi once you start comparing yourself to your best friend, kahit nga to your sister ay nako, it's gonna be toxic, diba? Kasi when we compare ourselves to others, we're only setting ourselves up for disappointment. We're each on our own path, diba? And we have the ability to choose different ways to do things. So in reality, even those who appear to be perfect or keen to details, may mga kanya-kararing issue yan and weaknesses. So we just, instead of being jealous or comparing ourselves to one another, why not just bridge the gap, diba? If nag-start ako agad na naging jealous ako sa'yo kasi mas maganda yung hair mo, mas maputi ka sa akin, alam mo yung physical pa lang, girl, nung college pa lang tayo, ang dami ko na pwedeng i-compare sa sarili ko. But instead, I got inspired. Nagpapakeratin ako, gano'n. So, diba? I mean, why not, na lang, ma-inspire na lang tayo sa isa't isa. I mean, imagine if the world stopped comparing themselves, diba? Or just, be inspired and get motivated, diba? Instead of being jealous, being mad, at diba? It could be a better place for us to live.
Totoo. Tsaka yung sinabi mo na, diba? Common talaga sa friendships parang, especially when you're close to someone and then, that individual is parang nasa peak sila na talagang success nila sa career, success nila sa family life, madaling mainggit. I mean, it's human nature, diba? Madaling mainggit. Pero when you give in dun sa jealousy or sa pagiging envious mo sa progress ng isang tao, parang dun mo na ma-associate yung perfection. Parang you want to be perfect. Pero hindi nga kasi whenever I hear perfection, I think it's being idealistic Especially when you're younger, diba? You tend to be idealistic. I, for one, have been such an idealistic when I was younger. Pero eventually kasi, kaya parang mababrush off mo rin na yung pag-recognize mo dun sa existence ng perfectionism. Kasi eventually, habang na-expose ka sa life, you get to realize na mas maganda maging practical. Diba? Is accepting a comment from a perfectionist going to help you in any way? Will it make you even more productive? Probably not. Probably it will just make you frustrated. Probably it will just make you hate what you're doing. Diba? Kasi sometimes when we are criticized ng mga may masabi lang, minsan parang nadi-discourage na tayo. And of course, madaling sabihin kung ganun ako na I don't put much parang pake sa sinasabi ng iba kung alam ko na hindi naman siya constructive. Kung alam mo na parang they just wanna make you feel bad. So, I think yun talaga na kaya kagaya din ng sinasabi mo, if we want to, for example, improve ourselves and we are really eager to receive constructive criticism, you get it from credible people. Some people na close to you because they know you and your capabilities for improvement, for growth, or people who are experts in what you do.
I agree.
Diba? But not dun sa mga, mga marites.
Yeah, the Karens and the Marites. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yan. When you seek advice, you seek for those na credible dun sa craft na yon.
Yes.
Or those who really love and support you. Kasi if they really love you, they'll be honest with you. Kaya I appreciate feedback. Kasi lalo sa Pilipinas, iniisip kasi nila lahat ng mga Pilipino sensitive. So when it comes to feedback, parang takot na takot. Pero sa totoo lang, I see it as a gift. Kasi it helps you improve.
Yes.
For example, I do speaking engagements, diba? Sometimes I get to record it and sometimes I forward it to my cousin, to my sister, to my mama. O kaya sa pinsan ko si Abby. Abby, do you think I can correct some things here? Ate, when it comes to responding questions, maybe you can repeat the question na hindi yung sagot ka kaagad, ganyan. Kasi parang pressured ka agad. Alam mo yung ganun? So, you get better every time na nagkakaroon ka ng mga engagements. So, it really helped you pa rin talaga. So, kaya when it comes to feedback, take it constructively. Don't be a perfectionist. Manage your expectation talaga. So, ayun. So, Toni, since we're about to close na, ano yung mga sa tingin mo mga natutunan mo na gusto mo ring ibigay sa mga viewers and listeners natin tonight?
Ako siguro, as you progress in life, as you get more people, you get to hear different perspectives, talagang learn to appreciate that nothing's gonna be perfect. We are fortunate that we have people around us that can give us feedback and eventually help us grow and develop. Of course, kung willing din talaga tayo, no? Kasi those feedback and concern will be useless if we are not really open to hear them. But don't get pressured. When you are faced with a scenario na you're asked to be perfect, because at the end of the day, when you give your best and you're doing something that you love doing, definitely you'll excel din sa bagay na yun. So, life is short. Enjoy as much as you can whenever you're doing something that you love.
For me, to all our viewers and listeners, and may podcast na rin tayo, by the way. So, never compare yourself to others. And if you have the tendency to be a perfectionist, set realistic goals and, reward yourself as you meet them.
Smart goals.
Yeah. Whenever you have a task on hand, consider whether it's worth the struggle. Hindi naman lahat ng task life and death, diba? So, be agile, be flexible, diba? And learn how to trust and delegate. I think this is how you will win people as well. Because perfectionism, you lose a lot of friends. You'll have a reward, maybe monetary, maybe promotion, but if you lose friends, wala, diba? So, what life is all about if we don't have human connection. And most of all, guys, we are a work in progress, diba? So we are all not perfect. So let's be lenient. Let's be flexible, guys. So yeah, that's all for tonight. Thank you guys for listening. If you're in YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. And if you're in Spotify, don't forget to follow this podcast.
Yes, and if you like this episode, please give it a thumbs up. This is Thursdays with Toni
and Trish. Have a great night.
Bye. Take care.